Welcome, brave souls, to another episode of our scary stories. I'm your host, inviting you to tread lightly and hush your breaths as we journey down the unexplored corridors of terror and the unknown. Tonight, we pry open the doors of a room steeped in eerie legend, a room that has been silent for too long. Prepare yourselves, listeners, as we unlock the chilling secrets of the haunting hour, Room 13. Now, gather your courage and step closer, for our tale is about to begin. On the wind-swept outskirts of the sleepy town of Hollow Creek, amidst the verdant rolling hills and the ceaseless lullaby of the chirping crickets, stood the Grand Manor, the towering hotel with its stone gargoyles perched menacingly on the cornices, and the ivy creeping like skeletal hands over the time-worn bricks, was a stark contrast to the quaint, pastel cottages dotting the rest of the town. It was a relic from another era, full of whispered legends and secrets seeping through its cold stone walls. Sam, a well-traveled writer in his mid-30s, rolled into town one sultry summer evening. His sunburnt skin prickled with sweat, eyes shaded under a worn baseball cap, seeking a respite from the heat. In the dimly lit lobby of the Grand Manor, Sam's footsteps echoed ominously on the marble floor, blending with the distant murmur of the vintage grandfather clock that stood sentinel in the corner. A musty scent of forgotten years wafted through the air, thick with tales and time. He noticed the strange absence of guests, but dismissed it as a benefit of small-town living. Behind the antique mahogany counter, a woman of indeterminable age sat, lost in the rhythmic clacking of her typewriter. She seemed part of the manor itself, aged, with an air of quiet wisdom and melancholy. Her eyes, when they met Sam's, held a glimmer of surprise, swiftly replaced by a practiced smile of welcome. "Ah, a visitor," she greeted, her voice a low murmur barely reaching above the hum of the evening. "What brings you to our corner of the world, mister?" "Sam, just Sam," he replied, his smile easy. "An adventure, I suppose. I hear the Grand Manor has quite the history." The receptionist's smile wavered, an unreadable flicker in her eyes. She reached for a rusty key from the antiquated array behind her, and then hesitated, her hand hovering over the one marked 13. Her eyes met Sam's once again, a shadow of a warning passing between them. With a resigned sigh, she handed over the key. "Room 13, Mr. Sam," she said, her voice a notch lower, a thread of concern woven into her words. "But I must warn you, it's been a long while since we last had anyone stay there." Sam's grin grew wider. "I suppose that makes me lucky then." His words echoed around the high ceiling, unanswered, swallowed by the creeping silence. As he ascended the creaking wooden staircase, little did he know that his luck was about to take a chilling turn as the sun set on the Grand Manor, marking the beginning of his journey into the unknown. As Sam ascended the winding staircase of the Grand Manor, each step resonated with the ancient echoes of the building, filling the air with the haunting rhythm of age-old tales. The ornate wallpaper, faded from years of silent watch over countless guests, peered at him from tarnished mirrors and moth-eaten portraits of forgotten faces. An eerie hush hung in the air, deepening as he ventured further into the heart of the manor. Room 13 stood at the end of the long, dimly lit corridor, the brass number on the door a dull gleam in the flickering candlelight. The door itself was heavy, thick oak with a brass knob worn smooth by time and unyielding against Sam's initial efforts. With a deep breath and a solid push, the door groaned open, unveiling its well-guarded secrets. Time seemed to stand still inside Room 13. The once vibrant carpet now lay dull under a layer of dust, the four-poster bed draped with tattered, cobwebbed curtains. Yet there was something mesmerizing about it, a frozen snapshot of an era long gone. The air smelled of old parchment and faintly of lilacs, the forgotten perfume of a previous occupant. A chill ran down Sam's spine, a fleeting touch from an unseen hand that sent shivers up his arms. In the corner stood a tall wooden armoire, its cherry wood now dulled by time. Against the wall was an ornate writing desk, complete with a feather quill, dried ink pot, and a worn leather-bound journal. The pages were yellowed with age, some missing, the ink faded but the scrawl still legible, the mysterious remnants of a bygone life. A great oval mirror hung above a stone fireplace, blackened from use, its reflection distorted, almost as if it were looking back at him. A curious clock, old yet undeniably fascinating, stood on the mantel. It was stuck on the stroke of midnight, its hands frozen in time just as the room itself seemed to be. Sam's gaze returned to the journal on the desk. He felt drawn to it, its leather cover smooth and cold under his touch. He opened it, revealing erratic pen strokes that danced across the pages, like silent whispers begging to be heard. A tingle of anticipation tingled at the back of his neck. As an inquisitive traveler, Sam loved unraveling mysteries, and Room 13 was becoming one intriguing enigma. In the stillness of the room, the receptionist's warning echoed in his mind. Yet, instead of discouragement, it only fanned the flames of his curiosity. Little did he realize that his decision to delve into Room 13's past would unleash a chain of events beyond his wildest imagination. Little did he know that he was standing on the precipice of a chilling tale that was about to unfold. As the dusk outside gave way to the deep indigo of the night, the first act of his haunting adventure was about to begin. Surrounded by the oppressive silence of Room 13, Sam sank into the faded armchair next to the writing desk. The scent of old leather and lingering whispers of the room's past tenants filled his senses. He gingerly picked up the abandoned journal, its pages brittle and discolored, filled with fervent, sporadic entries that seemingly sprang to life under his curious gaze. As he flipped through the worn pages, his fingers traced over the smudged ink, the desperate strokes of a quill long forgotten. The prose was the handiwork of a writer. Its cadence, despite the antiquated language, rang clear and intimate, as if the writer had poured out his soul onto the parchment. Each entry appeared more harried than the last, sketching a silhouette of a reclusive writer who had shut himself away in Room 13. Fragments of an unfinished story, a plot about invoking spirits from the unknown, were scattered throughout the journal. An unsettling wave of apprehension washed over Sam. Yet his writer's instinct saw it as a gold mine, a unique tale waiting to be shared. The room, cold and still, took on an even more uncanny aura as Sam delved deeper into the journal. Every creak of the old wooden floorboards, every distant gust of wind against the window, echoed the eerie tale unfolding in the faded ink. Then, as if in concert with the mounting tension in the room, Sam's eyes were drawn to the peculiar clock on the mantel. Silent and motionless since his arrival, it now stirred to life. Its hands moved steadily towards the midnight mark. An inexplicable sense of dread settled in Sam's stomach, a foreboding that had him glancing nervously around the shadowy room. The grandfather clock in the lobby chimed the 11th hour, the sound reverberating through the haunting silence. Each toll resonated within Sam, amplifying his trepidation. But the promise of the unsolved mystery held him captive, compelling him to delve deeper into the enigma that was Room 13. Just as the last echo of the 11th chime died away, a cold gust of wind swept through the room, stirring the dusty curtains and extinguishing the flickering candle. Darkness wrapped around Sam, the temperature dropping as an ominous silence claimed Room 13 once again. But Sam, his pulse quickening and his sense of adventure rekindled, chose to ignore the growing anxiety. He was a stranger stepping into a haunting narrative, unaware that as the clock inched closer to the witching hour, he was about to become a part of the story himself. As he sat there, waiting for midnight, Sam was blind to the turning gears of fate that promised a chilling revelation. Wrapped in bone-chilling shadows, Sam sat rigid in the age-worn armchair, his senses heightened in the throbbing silence of Room 13. The air grew colder, an unseen chill seeping into his very bones. He could taste the staleness on his tongue, feel the icy grip around his heart. Yet his mind remained gripped by the lure of the enigma surrounding him. His attention was riveted to the peculiar clock on the mantel, its ticking reverberating in the silence, measuring out the seconds before midnight. As the minute hand drew closer to the stroke of 12, a feeling of dread swept over Sam, prickling at the back of his neck. But it was too late to turn back now. As the clock struck midnight, a strange stillness hung in the air, thick and expectant. Then the room began to transform in ways that defied reason. The decrepit wallpaper seemed to ripple, the floral patterns morphing and undulating in the dim light. The furniture creaked, as though groaning under an unseen weight. The oppressive silence shattered by the distant, muffled sound of an orchestra, playing a haunting melody that was as mournful as it was beautiful. Then came the voice, soft and ethereal, a woman's voice humming along with the spectral melody. It was alluring and bone-chilling, causing goosebumps to rise on Sam's skin. It seemed to echo around the room, seeping out from the walls, the floor, the very air he breathed. A voice seemed to be beckoning him, pulling him towards the grand mirror above the fireplace. As he approached, a misty figure appeared in the glass, a woman dressed in an elaborate gown from another century. Her eyes held a mournful longing, her lips moving as though in silent prayer. Sam stood rooted to the spot, fear and fascination warring within him. His logical mind screamed for him to flee, yet he was entranced by the apparition and the haunting tale that was unfolding around him. As quickly as the music and the apparition had appeared, they disappeared, leaving an even deeper silence in their wake. The room returned to its previous state, the wallpaper still, the furniture silent. Yet the memory of the apparition and her haunting melody lingered. Sam was left standing, heart pounding, his breath coming in short gasps. Room 13 was indeed more than it seemed, hiding its secrets behind an illusion of normality. As the veil of night deepened, Sam found himself at the heart of a haunting mystery, his role in the story only just beginning. In the aftermath of the chilling apparition, Room 13 was plunged into silence once more. The shadows grew thicker, stretching out like tendrils around Sam. The heavy air clung to him, the taste of antiquity and unresolved mysteries lingering in the room. Despite his mounting fear, Sam's curiosity and determination held him firmly in their grip. With shaky hands, Sam turned back to the journal. His eyes scanned the faded pages, a newfound urgency coursing through his veins. The journal's tales of an unfinished story, invoking spirits, and hidden secrets took on a more sinister undertone now. As he delved deeper, Sam came across an entry that sent a chill down his spine. The writer spoke of a beautiful woman, Isabella, who'd been a frequent visitor to Room 13. A woman whose voice was as enchanting as the melody she often sang. A woman who disappeared one stormy night, her melody fading into oblivion with her. The writer's anguish was tangible in his frantic strokes. His heartbreak echoed in his words. Suddenly, everything fell into place. The midnight apparition, the haunting melody, the mournful longing in the spectral figure's eyes, it all pointed towards Isabella. The room, frozen in time, was but a mausoleum to her memory, and Sam found himself pulled into its orbit, destined to unearth the truth. As Sam read on, the air in Room 13 thickened. The temperature dropped, his breath misting in the icy air. The shadows seemed to come alive, whispering secrets and tales of their own. The ghostly melody drifted through the room once more, a sweet yet chilling serenade that gripped Sam's heart. A hushed voice echoed around him, the ethereal notes seeming to originate from the Grand Mirror. He approached it cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. The figure that had appeared earlier was absent, but the voice was unmistakably hers. A soft, pleading whisper, repeating a name over and over again, Robert. His gaze shifted to the journal in his hands, the name of its unknown author who'd loved Isabella staring back at him. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, one eerie revelation at a time. An icy wind swept through the room, the old wooden window panes rattling in their frames, as if the building itself was responding to the emerging story. As the sun began to creep up over the horizon, Sam found himself standing at the edge of an abyss, peering into the darkness of Room 13's past. The tale was only half told, and as the dawn crept in, Sam steeled himself for the terrifying revelations that lay ahead. As dawn's first light pierced through the gaps in the heavy drapes, Sam was pulled back from the depths of the mystery that had consumed his night. He was left with a shivering sense of dread that lingered at the edge of his consciousness. The eerie voice, the haunting melody, and the all-too-real apparition had seemingly retreated with the night. The chill of the early morning air permeated the room, carrying with it the rustic scent of dew-kissed foliage from outside the manor. Shaking off the remnants of his fear, Sam continued his exploration of the journal. Page after page, the tale of Robert and Isabella emerged, a tale of two souls entwined yet torn apart by a cruel twist of fate. Robert, an accomplished writer, had come to the Grand Manor to escape the mundane world, seeking solace in his stories. Isabella, a virtuoso with a voice that could move the hardest of hearts, had sought refuge from a relentless suitor. Room 13, their sanctuary, held the echoes of their love story. Robert's anguish, his desperation to reach out to Isabella from beyond the grave, spilled out from the pages. Sam could almost feel the pulsating heartache that Robert must have felt. He had attempted to summon Isabella's spirit, resorting to rituals he scarcely understood. Robert had believed their love was strong enough to bridge the realms of the living and the dead. The reality of Robert's tormented love for Isabella and the horrifying attempts to reach her sent a shiver down Sam's spine. The seemingly absurd tale took on a haunting plausibility given the unsettling events of the night. The connection was undeniable, the pieces of the puzzle aligning in a grim portrait of love and loss. With a heavy heart, Sam closed the journal, the stories of the past reverberating through him. he found himself drawn to the grand mirror where Isabella's apparition had appeared. His reflection looked back at him, his eyes echoing the weary resolve that had settled over him. As the room filled with the muted light of the rising sun, Sam realized his night of terror was just the beginning. He was entangled in a tragic love story that transcended time and death. The shadows of Room 13 held more than secrets. They were gateways to a realm unknown. And as the clock silently moved towards another midnight, Sam prepared himself to face whatever Room 13 would reveal next. The hours of daylight felt disturbingly normal for Sam. The Grand Manor and its occupants went about their routines, blissfully unaware of the otherworldly drama unfolding within Room 13. As dusk fell, the dim light transformed the room into an eerie stage where shadows danced and whispers of the past came alive. Anxious anticipation gripped Sam as he reopened the worn journal. His eyes scanned the later entries, where Robert had detailed the occult rituals he had undertaken to contact Isabella. Each description was penned with a desperate precision, a testament to Robert's determination. As Sam traced the intricately drawn symbols and deciphered the cryptic incantations, he felt a chilling kinship with Robert. Two writers, separated by time, drawn into an eerie narrative that blurred the lines between reality and the supernatural. Driven by a morbid curiosity, Sam decided to recreate Robert's ritual. He lit the antique candelabra, the dancing flames casting eerie patterns on the peeling wallpaper. He carefully arranged the other elements Robert had mentioned, an ornate silver locket, a quill, and a blank sheet of parchment. He then followed the instructions, drawing the same symbols on the floor, his hand guided by the crude sketches in the journal. As he whispered the incantation, the air within the room became dense and unnaturally cold. The flickering candle flames seemed to hold their breath, as though the room itself was anticipating the ritual's outcome. The ancient grandfather clock started to chime, marking the midnight hour, the notes reverberating through the chilling silence of Room 13. A shiver rippled through Sam as he completed the ritual. He half expected to see Isabella's apparition in the mirror, or hear her melancholy melody. But there was only silence, punctuated by his own anxious heartbeat and the distant, hollow echo of the grandfather clock. Then, just as the 12th chime faded into silence, the antique quill on the table twitched. To Sam's growing horror and fascination, it lifted into the air, suspended for a moment, before it descended on the blank parchment. Sam watched, his breath caught in his throat, as the quill began to write a message in an elegant, curvilinear script. "Help me," the message read, the ink barely dry on the parchment. As Sam read the words, a cold dread spread through him. He was now knee-deep in the haunting story of Robert and Isabella. Unbeknownst to him, he had not only invoked the tragic past into the present, but he had also invited an encounter with the unknown that was yet to unfold. Shivering under the room's unnatural chill, Sam stared at the hastily scrawled plea. The quill, now motionless, seemed as ordinary as it had before the ritual. But the message, "Help me," was tangible proof that something beyond his understanding was occurring in Room 13. Shaking off the initial shock, Sam once again turned to Robert's journal. He read and reread the entries surrounding the rituals, hoping for a clue that would aid Isabella's distressed spirit. His heart ached at the shared desperation between Robert's pleas from the past and Isabella's present plea. A resolve solidified within him. He had to help, not just for his sake, but for Robert and Isabella's unending torment. The antique clock ticked onwards, counting down the tense minutes as Sam pored over the journal. His eyes fell on a section where Robert spoke of an amulet, a family heirloom that Isabella often wore. It was said to protect the wearer from negative energies. Could this be the key to helping Isabella? Driven by a renewed purpose, Sam searched the room. Every drawer, nook, and cranny was examined in the flickering candlelight. Finally, beneath a loose floorboard, he discovered a small, dust-laden box. Inside was a delicate silver amulet, adorned with a single sapphire. It was eerily warm to the touch, and a faint hum vibrated from it, barely audible but unquestionably there. Clasping the amulet in his hand, Sam approached the grand mirror. His reflection was haggard, the toll of the night's events apparent. Holding up the amulet, he addressed Isabella's unseen presence, his voice trembling but resolute. "Isabella, I don't fully understand what's happening," he admitted, "but I believe this amulet was yours. If you're in need of help, I offer this back to you." The room fell deathly silent, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Then the mirror rippled like the surface of a disturbed pond. A figure began to form, its outline hazy but unmistakably feminine. Isabella's apparition appeared, her eyes meeting Sam's through the mirror's surface. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the amulet. The temperature in the room returned to normal, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Sam dared to hope that he had succeeded in his mission to help. But as Isabella's form solidified in the mirror, her eyes told a different story. The fear was gone, replaced with an urgent desperation. The room held its breath as Isabella, her voice as clear as though she were physically present, finally shared her tale. A tale that would unravel the mystery of Room 13 and the tragic lover's story entwined with it. As her words echoed in the silence, Sam braced himself for the chilling truth that was about to unfold. Isabella's presence in the mirror held an ethereal grace, her voice resonating with an otherworldly quality. She told her tale, her eyes reflecting centuries of pent-up sorrow and regret. Sam listened, his heart thudding heavily in his chest. She spoke of her love for Robert, a bond that transcended the confines of mortality. She also spoke of the relentless suitor who had trailed her to the Grand Manor, a man of considerable power and ruthless determination. Isabella had rebuffed his advances, choosing instead the tender companionship of Robert. In a fit of jealousy and rage, the suitor had resorted to dark magic, enlisting the help of a local witch. They'd concocted a curse that trapped Isabella within the confines of Room 13, invisible and intangible to the living world. Robert's attempts to summon her had failed, not due to his lack of effort, but because the curse bound her tightly. Robert, driven by despair, had died within the same room, his spirit too becoming entwined in the complex weave of magic. Sam, captivated by the tragic tale, felt a cold shiver of dread. The unfortunate lovers were trapped by a dark curse, forever kept apart despite being within the same room. When Isabella fell silent, the reality of their predicament settled upon Sam like a heavy shroud. He felt a mixture of fear, sorrow, and determination. He was a part of this narrative now, and he couldn't turn away. "I'll help you," he promised, his voice echoing with a newfound resolve. "I'll find a way to break this curse and free you both." Isabella looked at him, her ethereal form flickering in the mirror, and for the first time, Sam thought he saw a spark of hope in her eyes. It was a silent acknowledgement, a non-verbal gratitude from a trapped soul to her unexpected savior. As the clock struck the first chime of dawn, Sam knew the daunting task that lay ahead of him. He had to delve deeper into the dark world of occult magic and find a way to shatter the curse. But for now, he was in the eye of the storm. He was the sole bearer of a love story that had spanned centuries, the only hope for two souls bound by love and ensnared by a cruel twist of fate. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the curtained windows of Room 13, Sam braced himself for the final chapter that was yet to unfold. With dawn came a sense of urgency. Sam knew he had a limited amount of time to unravel the intricate web of dark magic that held Isabella and Robert captive. He turned again to Robert's journal, examining the entries with renewed focus, searching for any clues about the curse. Hours passed, and Sam's eyes grew bleary as he deciphered Robert's increasingly frantic notes. His heart sank as he came to the final entries, where Robert had admitted his despair, convinced that the curse was unbreakable. But amidst the despondency, Sam found a glimmer of hope, a mention of the witch, the architect of the curse. The man had lived locally, a feared recluse who had vanished mysteriously, leaving behind a house full of arcane objects and ancient tomes. Without wasting a moment, Sam made his way to the witch's abandoned home. The house, much like the Grand Manor, held its own eerie charm, the dilapidated facade hinting at a forgotten past. Inside, amidst the dust and decay, Sam discovered an ancient grimoire, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and forgotten spells. The words danced before Sam's eyes as he found the curse, complete with its counterspell. It was a complicated weave of incantations and rituals, but Sam felt a surge of hope. Back at the Grand Manor, the sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows across Room 13. With the grimoire at his side, Sam began the intricate process of counteracting the curse. He felt a strange energy fill the room, a palpable tension that made his skin crawl. He uttered the incantations, his voice reverberating around the room, and he could almost feel the curse unwinding, the dark magic unraveling. The air seemed to shiver with anticipation, the room bearing silent witness to the monumental event unfolding within its walls. As Sam reached the climax of the spell, the room erupted in a flash of blinding light. He shielded his eyes, the incantation still ringing in his ears. When he opened his eyes, he saw Isabella and Robert, their spectral forms visible, their hands reaching out to each other. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, they began to fade, their forms growing more translucent by the second. Their faces held expressions of relief, their eyes meeting in a silent promise of eternal love. And then they were gone, the room returning to its previous state, except for a sense of peace that hadn't been there before. Sam found himself standing alone in room 13, the haunting hour having passed, and the room finally freed from its tragic past. He felt a sense of accomplishment, his fear replaced with a strange serenity. As he left the room, he glanced back at the mirror. For a moment, he thought he saw Robert and Isabella, their forms no longer trapped, but free and radiating a love that had transcended the bounds of life and death. As they disappeared, Sam knew he had not just witnessed a haunting, but had been a part of a love story that had spanned centuries. In the quiet hours of the morning, the Grand Manor felt different, the sorrow that once clung to its walls replaced with a peaceful silence. The tale of Room 13 had found its closure, its occupants finally at rest, their story carried forward by the one person who dared to listen, dared to help, and dared to step into the unknown. Well, dear listeners, we've reached the end of our journey for today, having ventured through the hushed whispers and veiled secrets of the Grand Manor's Room 13. The echoes of our tale will linger, leaving behind the spectral traces of love, despair, and an indomitable will to break the bonds of a haunting curse. As we close the creaking door behind us, remember there are countless untold stories lurking in the shadows, awaiting their turn to send shivers down your spine. So until next time, on our scary stories, remember to keep your curiosity alive, but beware. The next shiver you feel might just be another story itching to be told. Sweet dreams, listeners, or perhaps spine-chilling nightmares. This is our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.